So what I want to talk about today is the fantastic potential that is within the documentary session and how it all works together with possibilities to grow as a photographer on both business and artistic level. So we all know that photographs can lie. Not always directly by showing one and telling it something else, but simply by not telling a whole story or showing just a part of it. Even depending on the final selection of the photographs I will deliver to a family client, I can paint a picture of a happy family, or a family with a distant father, or a family with an absent mother, and so on. So if the story told by the images can be manipulated like that, and in reality different photographers will see different things and emotions in the same scene, do the final products ever tell the truth, or just the truth the photographer sees? And if the answer here is no, then can this be a good thing? So a few weeks ago I was invited to a photo shoot. This cosmetic company is releasing a new line, and when they do that, they invite influencers and celebrities, models basically, to put on the makeup, and then they organize a photo shoot, a beauty fashion photo shoot. The images created during that photo shoot are later used in the marketing campaign. So I was invited there as a documentary photographer, as an event photographer in a way. Altogether, event photography is nothing new. There's this thing happening and there are people there and they talk and they work and maybe eat something. So as an event photographer, you are there to document the event. So you take pictures of all those things. You take pictures of people being there and talking and working, and you show the environment and people interacting with one another. You show the hard work of the models in this case, and the photographer and all the people around. You show the conversations that people have and the time they spend alone. You can show the way people get into the flow and become more at ease during the day. The transformation of the models from one person to the other depends on the makeup and so on and so on. And you can do a close-up portrait here and an environmental shot over there. And so that's exactly what I did. I have photographed the event in a way I have seen it. There's really no other way to do it. By the time I have edited all the images, I already knew I don't know which images I want to show to a client. What story do I want to tell? I have realized that my session is actually built from not only images from different types of photography, but also from a few different smaller sessions. I have approached it from the event photography perspective, and this is ultimately what I created. But it looks like I have a possibility to send them a couple different sessions. I have never realized that before, the potential that comes with a documentary session. I always understood the value that comes with a documentary photography, especially when it comes to families, and I know that the story can be skewed by the way I decide to photograph, and then the selection and the edit, but I have never seen that angle of it before. The photographic possibility that come along with a documentary session are enormous. If you go into a session like that with a right mindset, which I was unfortunately not in because that I never realized the potential until I actually saw the images. But if you do that, you could basically create photographs from almost any genre and still retain the realisms that only street and documentary and candid photography brings. And at the same time, you can still fulfill all of your clients' needs and possibly even give them more. So starting with portraits of models as the transformation of models. Transformation is the feat of changing their looks with makeup and with clothes, and their behavior during the shoot as they get more comfortable with time, and the relationship that they have with me, the photographer, as the time progresses. Both of you and the subjects are acting more natural and with bigger confidence. This allows you to get closer and photograph more and more natural reactions. If you play that right, and if you are willing to choose a subject and follow it through the day, there is a potential for a nice psychological portrait next to just a regular aesthetically pleasing one. I can see a glimpse of that in my images. But because I didn't realize that until after the session, I actually never actively pursue it during the shot. It is just a promise, but it's there. And it doesn't really require a series of images. A 20-minute peaceful time with just one person might not really happen during the day, although it really depends on the event. But it's basically like shooting a wedding. You spend time with one person, you get to know each other, a certain type of relationship is built. And with time, confidence and comfort levels rise for you and for them. So creating a series of nice portraits of that person seems like a natural step. Now, fashion or editorial images. By the nature of that event, it was in essence a pose photography session. Models put on makeup and then model pose in front of the carefully planned tree light setup, plus another tree just for video. And as a documentary photographer, you can use that to create a very unique fashion images, posed and yet not posed. The candid ones, but still very well prepared. This photojournalistic approach allows you to add element of the background into the scene and approach it in a creative way when it comes to light and composition. You have no control over the light, but it's consistent from a scene to scene, and you have to explore it. I know some photographers sometimes are a bit scared of available light and feels the need to control it with at least a bit of a flash, but I really believe that the restrictions that you have when shooting documentary are actually freeing. Less things to worry about. It's the same reason why street photographers carry just one body with one lens. The less thing you have control over, the less things you have to worry about. So that way you can produce fashion images that couldn't be produced in any other way. As long as you make sure that the main focus will be on the subject, you can add the environment and compose in an interesting way. Fresh, unique images that not only shows the clothes or accessories, but do it in a way that it's not possible during editorial or even a lifestyle session, while still retaining the edge that is necessary for the commercial market. Street or art photography. Things happen when nothing happens, as that's an essence of a documentary photojournalistic approach. By applying street photography principles, assuming that you could actually pinpoint them, considering the many ways street photography is actually created in, the documentary session is a perfect moment to create some real candid images. With this mindset, you can approach the scene like a street and just shoot street. Find weird moments, find funny moments, or beautiful moments. Just basically find interesting moments. When the scene is ending and the subject stops whatever they were doing and they are simply doing nothing, this is where the images are hidden. Try weird angles and unexpected composition. Experiment with light, overexpose or underexpose. If you are approaching the whole assignment as a documentary session, this won't feel like experimenting on client's time, which I know is frowned upon, although I'm sure we all do that from time to time. If you can take it a step farther, you can create more conceptual images. If you keep in mind the overall message, vibe, the philosophy of the client, you can do that and at the same time still create something that has value for them. You can see what no one else sees. Take advantage of that. Event photography. This is essentially what I have delivered to my client, a selection of images from each genre carefully selected to tell the story of the day. The thing with event photography is that I think you have to limit your creativity a little bit. I believe that if you compose an event session from quality images that can be clearly recognizable as portrait, fashion, street, environmental, and so on, or just from the really, really good ones, there will be a noticeable lack of something in the session. It won't be complete, surprisingly the dissonance grows with the characteristic and qualities of the image. So this is where our slightly above averages images comes to play. Not good enough to be considered something that you are proud of, but not bad enough to be deleted. People talking, people doing their work, correctly exposed and focused and composed, but nothing exciting. A few of them among other images will complete an event session, I think. So what does it exactly mean? What's the point of that? What does it mean, let's say, for a client? I think a documentary session like that creates possibilities outside the strictly photographic regions. I believe that this approach adds greatly to the value of the images that they can bring to the client. When you know the philosophy that stands as the fundaments of the client's business and you understand what he needs, you could steer the session to that waters and create something unique, real, and still with enough commercial value. Your clients will get some unusual, very versatile images that could have never been created in any other way than in this conscious backstage photography. This type of session also very effectively avoids some sore points that might show up for a client when he is considering a photography session. When we try to approach someone with a session proposition, question that goes through their heads definitely consists why and Am I willing to allocate time into that, and how much money and how much work is required and resources and so on? So time, it doesn't cost any time. The event is happening already anyway. In my case, all the models will be there taking pictures whether I am there or not. So there is no time cost. The same goes for effort and resources. This goes completely out of the window, as there is literally nothing your client needs to do while hiring you. No work is required on his part. So what does it mean for all the other people that were involved? Everyone will appreciate or need different images. The model might like the portrait session with some fashion images here and there. She probably wants to evolve in her career, and so those images are around down her alley. The main planner might want to be able to show how versatile are events organized by her and how smooth everything is working. So we have those images. The venue where everything was happening might like some images that are more from the event pile. If you think about what that people might need, or better yet, talk to them casually during the session and find out. And if you consider that while you shoot, you might be able to help them and they might be able to help you. They know people, they have connections, they hear things. So what does that finally mean for us, for a photographer? Putting aside the creative part of our work, there is another aspect that I have noticed. It's big enough that it really deserves its own article or its own episode, so I'm just going to mention to it here very quickly. Business possibilities that the session brings after the images are created and delivered. This seems fairly obvious. You have the new marketing material, you should use it in marketing, standard. But you are sitting on the various images from various genres. Different images will be appealing to a model and different to the clothes designer. Another will suit portals that feature more documentary images or portraits. Some photography agencies specialize in commercial fashion photography, some in event photography. Business owners will like something different than the event manager. And you have all of them, especially if you have approached the assignment from that perspective. Imagine the amount of people that you are able to contact now with the images that are trimmed just for them, the things you could do with them. People you could get in touch with in the industry, all the models from the session, the photographer, CEO, if you were lucky enough to meet him or just persuasive enough to get his contact details, that marketing girl that were there. They all have pain points and challenges that you can turn into opportunities. They all have connections. With the session so versatile in styles, you also have the perfect opportunity for some vivisection. Pick the session apart and think who, where, when, why, and how, and utilize the session in the most effective way. What can you do with the session? Who can you contact? What are their needs? How can you help? How can they help you? For me, that was a 2-day process with a few hours every night dedicated just for that. It looks like this. I still add things to the board till this moment. So I always knew that the documentary session is something that is worth to explore for completely different reasons than that, but still, I have never noticed this angle before, and all of those is based on this particular session, so I did gravitate towards that example in particular, but I believe all of this can be applied into any session, any event-like session. Obviously, a different session will create different opportunities and you will create different images, but I believe if you approach it from this perspective, from this conscious backstage photography perspective, it will create an abundance of opportunities, and I really think this approach is really worth to explore. Thank you. Oh, and there will be a subscribe button somewhere here, so please click. Thanks.